my channel. If you are new here, my name is Milan Forster and I'm a violinist who shares my life on social media with you all. And today's video is the last video in my musician success series. I cannot believe I am already done with this series. It's been so much fun to film. But today's topic is all about why we as musicians are athletes. I do want to stop and say a huge thank you to everyone who has watched these videos and has supported me as I have made this series. It's been a ton of fun. I've really enjoyed doing this, and don't worry, I'm not disappearing off of YouTube anytime soon. I have plenty of more exciting videos and things coming for you guys, but this series will be coming to a close with this video. If you want to go back and watch any of the previous videos, I have them all in a playlist on my channel under the name Musician Success, and I hope you go back and watch some of them. I had a lot of fun making them and you guys have enjoyed them. So thank you again to everybody who has watched these videos and supported me. I really do appreciate it. Okay, so I do want to add the really quick disclaimer that I am not a professional, I am not a doctor, I am not prescribing any treatments in this video or telling you that this is how you should do things. I'm just offering my thoughts and advice as somebody who has spent over a decade in the music industry as a violinist. These are all just my own experiences. I am not trying to give you any advice. Obviously, if you think you need help with something or you need medical attention, please seek help from a doctor or a medical provider. I am not any of those things. So with that, let's move on to the rest of the video. So today's video, I'm going to be talking about why we as musicians should look at ourselves as athletes. I think this mindset shift has been really helpful to me as I have navigated injury and different struggles as a musician. And it's really helped me change the way I perform, how I practice. All of these things play into it. And I think just having this mindset shift and understanding how I am using my body is very much akin to how an athlete uses their body has really helped me make decisions and be more well informed as I continue to improve and grow as a performer. So obviously we as musicians use muscles in our body to play our instruments. That I think is something we all understand. And if you're not a musician, then we definitely do use our muscles. It is a lot of work and it's very exhausting. And so just know that there is a lot of muscle work that goes into just holding our instruments and playing it. And we're constantly thinking about a million different things on top of that. So it's definitely work. And in that sense, we can definitely be considered athletes. But I think something that I really had a mindset shift about as far as viewing myself more like an athlete is just in the way I practiced and how I guess you could say I trained. Because when I was younger, I practiced regularly. I practiced 6 to 7 days a week. And so there were times and periods of time where I practiced less, and there were times when I practiced a lot and probably a little too much. And this last spring, I dealt with an injury. I had tendonitis in my wrist from overuse. And thankfully it was very mild and I recovered with some good physical therapy and just understanding what things I needed to change about how I played and practiced the violin. One of the main things I learned when I dealt with that injury was that I needed to understand that just like my body needed to train and practice regularly to keep up those muscles, it also needed time to recover. And by not giving my body enough time to recover or the proper care so that it could recover well, I was setting myself up for failure in the sense that I was going to deal with injury or I was just going to deal with overuse that might lead to injury potentially. Now, I hope that if you're a musician, you never deal with injury. It is not fun, but unfortunately, it is something that we all worry about and a lot of us deal with. And I think we all want to minimize the amount of injuries we have or hopefully reduce the risk to little if none. So I wanted to talk about exactly what I do to kind of help keep my body in good shape and to recover well, because I think recovery is very underestimated as a musician. We don't talk about it a lot, I feel like, and it might not be something that you have heard talked about, or maybe you have, and I am just going to offer some of my thoughts and ideas on this. So obviously the most important thing when you are dealing with muscles is to warm them up and cool them down. Now, I think most of us as musicians have a warm up in our practice routine. If you don't, please put one in your practice routine. Talk to your teacher, talk to a professional that you know that plays your instrument. Ask them for some help and some tips on how to incorporate a warm up into your practice. But I'm assuming that you have a warm-up incorporated into your practice where you warm up your instrument, you play some scales, you play some, arpeggios or something like that, and you are working and warming up your hand and your body by playing music. But I also think that it's really important to warm up your actual body away from the instrument. This doesn't have to be very long at all, but I think there's something to be said for stretching regularly and warming up your body in that way, just like you would if you were going to go to the gym. And I have gotten lots of different input as far as what stretches to do. If you want to have some good ideas for stretches, I would go online and look up stretches for the different body parts you use when you're playing your instrument. So if you're a violinist, I stretch my shoulders, I stretch my arms, I stretch my wrists, I stretch my neck, and then I also stretch my legs a little bit, but I mostly focus on my upper body. I try and do stretches for my whole body because I just find that it balances it out well. But if you don't have a lot of time, focus on the parts of your body that you are using when you play your instrument and do some stretches related to those. So I think that's a really great way to warm up your body before you even touch the instrument. It doesn't have to take long. You can literally take 2 minutes and do this. My stretching routine usually takes between 2 to 5 minutes. Sometimes it's really quick. Other days I take a little bit longer and stretch my whole body out. It just depends, but it doesn't have to take very long. But I definitely have noticed that I am more loose before I start to play my instrument, and my muscles just feel a little more warmed up, so that when I start playing my instrument, I don't feel as tight, and it takes less time for me to feel ready and prepared to play at a high level. So obviously warming up is super, super important. And so I would suggest stretching. I would obviously definitely suggest that you warm up on your instrument. But then what about after you're done practicing? I think this is the most underrated and least talked about part of practicing, is how you finish out after you're done practicing. And I think a lot of us just kind of finish practicing and we're done. And while that can happen, and it still happens in my practice session, sometimes I don't have time to do anything after I'm done practicing and I just have to leave it and move on. But if you do have a few minutes, these are some of the things that I do to kind of cool down my body and relax after I'm done practicing. I definitely love to use heat and ice. So I ice areas of my body that I find are super tight or tend to get tight after practicing. For me as a violinist, that tends to be my shoulders, especially my left shoulder, and then my wrist, because I had dealt with a previous injury to that and it just tends to get tired the quickest. So I will alternate between heat and ice. Some days I will only do heat, or some days I will only do ice. There are lots of great like ice packs that you can get online that you can just throw in your freezer and have ready to go, or you can just use like ice cubes in a plastic bag. As far as heating goes, you can get a heating pad off of Amazon. Or if you have like a heated blanket, I got one of those for Christmas and I absolutely love that because I lay down and I put it over my whole body and it's really nice. I find that it really relaxes my body after a practice session. But any way that you can allow your muscles to kind of have a chance to kind of cool down and relax and hopefully avoid tightening up too much. That's kind of what we're trying to avoid, because we want them to recover quickly. And especially if you alternate between heat and ice, this is something that I've done and I found really, really helpful, because you are kind of bringing your body's attention and blood flow to that area, and it will also help it recover quicker. If you're an athlete outside of being a musician, I'm sure that you do a lot of these things, but if you aren't, these are just some of the things that you can do to help your body and your muscles recover quicker so that you have more effective practice and so that you can practice more if you need to. A lot of times I don't have the luxury of taking 2 days off a week, 3 days off a week. And so if I can optimize how my muscles recover and avoid dealing with a ton of tension or exhaustion in my muscles, so that I can practice enough during the week and so I can practice 6 days a week, that is really great. Now, obviously, if your body is super exhausted, if you are feeling any sort of pain, that is a sign that you need to take a break. That is your body telling you that this is not healthy and you should not continue. What I'm saying here is just to help make sure that you are avoiding dealing with any pain or injury. These are some things that you can do. Okay, I'm editing and I just wanted to add in here that stretching after you're done practicing is also a really, really great way to cool down your muscles. If you know anything about stretching, if you want to warm your muscles up, it's better to do more dynamic stretching, which basically just means moving through the stretches a lot more and not holding one position for a long period of time. So I would suggest doing that when you warm up. When you're cooling down, you can hold more static stretches, i.e. you're just holding the stretch and letting your muscles relax. This can be really great to do in between heat and ice or after heat and ice, and to just allow your muscles to expand a little bit and relax, and hopefully not have as much tension. Another thing that I just started doing regularly again after I did it in physical therapy, it's called a TENS machine. And if you do not know how to use one of these, don't use one. I do not suggest doing this if you don't know how to use one. I have several people in my life who are physical therapists who have given me thoughts and recommendations on this. This is something I use. Basically, it's electricity as a stimulation. And I could go more into like what exactly that means, but I won't. I will save you the details. But basically, it's just another way to stimulate blood flow to the area that you want, and so that your body can heal faster. Because if you think about it, if you work out, or if you, like I said, are an athlete, when you use your muscles, there are tiny, tiny little tears that happen within a muscle. And then when you're done using it, your body will bring blood to that area and repair those tiny tears. And that's what allows your muscles to grow and become stronger. And so by using heat or ice or something like a TENS machine, what you're doing is you're bringing more blood flow to that area so that those muscles can repair better and quicker. I think there's something also to be said for just overall body fitness as a musician. I am not the fittest person in the world. I will not claim to be the fittest person in the world. But something that I started doing regularly this fall was going to the gym. I've worked out before, but I started going to the gym and taking it really seriously and trying to make sure that I am keeping my body in the best shape I can and I have time for. So I go to the gym regularly and I run, I lift weights, I do all sorts of things. And obviously I keep in mind what muscles I'm going to be using that day. For instance, I'm not going to do an upper body day on a day I have a long rehearsal or have a long lesson, because that would just be super exhausting. I have done that before and it has been way too much for my body. So it's kind of trial and error. You kind of need to figure out what days you can work out and feel good. And maybe there are certain days where you have a long rehearsal and it just doesn't make sense to go exhaust your muscles in the gym and then go to a rehearsal. So always keep in mind what things you have going on in your schedule. But if you can, I would suggest going to the gym or just doing home workouts, because it is really, really good to strengthen your overall body's fitness. And also it strengthens your mental. I love to give the example of running, because I started running in August of this year and 2 months later I ran a half marathon. Don't recommend that. That was a really, really quick turnaround. But something that did improve when I started running was just my ability to stay focused on one thing for an extended period of time, especially when I translated it to practicing and with the instrument. I found that in performances, I was able to kind of redirect my attention back to what I was doing and performing, either memorized or with music, a lot quicker. I found that running, because it was tricky for me mentally and I had to kind of fight through the uncomfortableness of it, I found it really helpful. And so that might be something you try out, or you try going to the gym, or you just try going for a walk every day. Any sort of level of fitness that you can work on is always great, and I recommend that for just keeping your body in the best condition possible. Now, what do you do if you are dealing with injury currently? Now, obviously, if you're dealing with an injury or you think you might be injured, please, like I said, seek a doctor and medical advice and help. Most likely, if you are injured in a musician sort of way, you are probably going to be going to physical therapy and all sorts of things. Make sure that you don't start playing your instrument again too soon. Always confer with your physical therapist, your doctor, your teacher for your instrument. Make sure that you don't start playing your instrument until you are fully recovered, or at least until they feel it is safe to do so. When I was injured, I did not practice at all for 2 months. I picked up my violin maybe twice in that amount of time to play on it for a few minutes, just to give my physical therapist a check-in on where I was feeling pain and discomfort when I was playing, because my injury really only showed up when I was playing my instrument. So it just depends on the type of injury. Like I said, confer with your doctor and your physical therapist and your teacher, but don't start playing again too soon. You should allow time for your body to recover. It might be a few weeks, it might be a couple months like it was in my case, but do allow time for your body to recover. And then after dealing with an injury, definitely make sure that you keep up on whatever exercises or things that your physical therapist or doctor has given you to do. Ask them what you can do to maybe help prevent that injury from happening again, because if you can do some things or do some exercises or stretching or ice and heat to help prevent or help your muscles recover better and build stronger muscles, that is always advantageous to you, so that hopefully you won't have to deal with injury again. If you're dealing with injury, I am so sorry. I know it is really rough. It is hard because we as musicians spend a lot of time with our instruments and a lot of time playing and practicing and performing, and it can be really hard when you aren't able to do that anymore. It was really hard on me when I wasn't able to play my instrument, because I've done that since I was very, very young. And so I totally understand where you're at, but just try and keep a positive mindset and do everything you can to recover well. Spend extra time with family and friends and find fun things to do to kind of keep you busy in the time period where you aren't able to play your instrument. If you feel like it, study some classical music, listen to music, study music that you want to play, look at scores, do all sorts of things. I did a lot of that in the second month when I was finishing up recovering. That first month, it was really hard. I just did not want to look at music. It was really just, got really sad because I really wanted to play my instrument. But that second month, when I started to feel better and I kind of felt like I was going to be playing again soon, I listened to a lot of orchestra music and solo music and kind of came up with ideas of things I wanted to play and where I wanted to go. So it was really helpful to me to just kind of have that extra time to do those things. But if you are dealing with injury, I am so sorry. Try and maintain a positive mindset and know that you will get better soon, and do everything you can to optimize your recovery and make sure you are doing everything right. I would also like to add here at the end for my last point that consistency is the most important thing. Even if you aren't able to practice a lot of hours every day of the week, 3 to 4 hours or something crazy like that, if you can just do 20, 30 minutes a day, that is way better than doing 1 3-hour session a week. Try and remain consistent in both with your music and with your instrument, and outside of the instrument with your recovery tools or with your workouts or with your eating or whatever your goals are. Try and remain consistent, because that's the best way to see progress. And if you've been a musician for any amount of time, you probably understand this in some sort of way, because you really don't see any progress until you practice consistently. So just remember that you probably aren't going to see progress in the first 2, 3, 4 weeks. It's going to take a little while to really start to feel like you've made progress and see some results. So don't give up and continue to work at it, because it will get better, trust me. If you have any questions for me about this topic, or if you want to hear more about my thoughts on it, drop them in the comments. I am more than happy to answer any of your questions, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this topic. I think this is something that's really interesting, and I really enjoy learning more about how our bodies function and how it works as musicians, and how better to optimize our performances in our recovery. So with that, thank you so much for watching today's video. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe, as it really does help me out, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!